Hi, Parmeet.
Hi,
I'm
Alize. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm amazing. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me. I was genuinely very, very excited to hear from you because I think there's just so much to learn from you. Specifically, when you mentioned that you've been to the Joe Dispenza
Retreat.
retreat, I was like, dude, I cannot wait to hear about this.
Well, surprisingly, many people don't know about it. So when I hear someone who knows about it and is curious to know, like, it just lights me up as well because it's something I hold very dearly to my heart. So yeah, I can't stop blabbering about it to people who want to hear about it. So keen to share whatever I can.
Great, great. So, Parmeet, I would first want you to please give a brief introduction about yourself. What exactly is it that you do?
So I'm Parmeet, as you already heard from Alize. I am based in Sydney, originally from Pakistan, but I moved out when I was 18. So I've been out for about 12 years now. I'm based in Sydney, Australia now. By profession, I'm a property investor and manager, and I am building this wellness company called Wiser. To put it very simply, we help people overcome their mental limitations so that they can be a better version of themselves, for themselves, and people around them. Um, and that our core practice to do that is meditation. So we delve very deep into meditation and use that as our core practice to first become aware and then overcome the limitations within our minds.
So, Parmeet, from somebody who was into property dealing to doing something completely different, what made you
Yeah.
come towards meditation, this side of the journey?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I always question myself this as well because these are like totally unrelated things. So obviously, one's to fill my pocket, the other one's to fill my soul. That's how I look at it. Because obviously, as you may know, a lot of the soul full or fulfilling stuff doesn't really pay that much.
Yeah.
But that's not the reason that we do it, right? How I got into this, like about 5 6 years ago, I went to a monastery, and there's a whole story how I ended up there as well. But why I went there was, I just wanted to, I was always a very curious kid, and I was want to learn more about life and learn more about what the purpose of life is, where we come from, what it means to be a human, so on and so forth. And naturally, I discovered that our mind is so powerful. Either it can be our best friend or our worst enemy, depending on how we use it. And I really wanted to be the best at it and learn more about it. And who better to learn from than monks, right? So I
Yeah.
flew to Nepal, lived in a monastery only for a week just to get a sense of that experience. But that one experience sort of led me on this journey of constantly interacting with people and exploring deeper depths of what it means to be human and how does your mind work, how you can befriend it and use it to your advantage. And then obviously there's several retreats that I've followed and a lot of things that I've followed across as I'm still as curious, I'm still as passionate, I still practice a lot. So yeah,
What really intrigues me, by the way, you're like literally always running.
I
I've
am.
always seen you run.
Yeah, I just ran before the podcast, by the way.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
Parmeet, if I had to ask you, how would you define consciousness today? How would you define it?
Look, I feel like when people hear the word consciousness, it's a very heavy loaded term that can be interpreted in multiple ways. But I found this simple way that I can see it, and that's what I would like to share because essentially, if people don't giving people the language that they understand is important, right? So how I see consciousness is awareness, awareness is attention, and attention is energy. Whatever you are attending to with your attention, you're putting energy into it. And that is what you're becoming conscious of, to put it very simply. So, whatever you put your awareness to, or whatever you put your attention to, you're naturally giving it energy. And that's literally what consciousness is. It's just your ability to be aware or attend to something with your energy.
So, do you think awareness is fundamental to reality or it's an evolutionary accident?
I would say the opposite. I would say reality is fundamental to awareness. Without awareness and consciousness, there is no reality. I fundamentally believe there is no such thing as objective reality. Um, it's only subjective to the one perceiving it, right?
Yeah.
If we were both to look at the same thing and write an essay about it, maybe 100 words, although we're looking at the same thing, what we write will be completely different. So while that objective reality is the same, our subjective experiences of it are completely different. And that's
Yeah.
what determines how that reality appears to be for us in our subjective awareness. Um, so awareness is fundamental for reality. Is it a bleep in this evolution? I think it's a natural part of evolution. Speaking of evolution, as we're growing and progressing, or as the species or the world is growing and progressing, I feel evolution or Mother Nature only progresses something that it can sustain and that it can survive, or that has the maximum chances of survival. So naturally, humans evolved from hunter gatherers to developing this part of our brain, which is called the prefrontal cortex. This part of our brain is what gives us ability to be aware, to be critical, to question our thoughts, to think in the past, think in the future, to question things, to imagine things, to critique things. Um, so I think it's a natural process. Consciousness is part of a natural process within evolution. And obviously there's other parts that will unfold after after this as well.
Yeah.
But that we can save that for another conversation.
Yeah. So you've spent a lot of time in silence and solitude, I'm sure, specifically
Yeah,
during these retreats.
yeah.
What surprised you the most during these hours of being in silence?
Um, it doesn't come right away, but if you really are determined to sit
Yeah.
for a while, eventually you start to realize that the world, there's a whole world in here. And this world has been created based on your interpretation that happened at a very early age, up until the age of 7. So 95% of our brain and mind is developed by the age of 7, not by
Okay.
choice, by chance, based on where you're born, who your parents are, what your household is like, what school you go to, who you're surrounded by. So I really started to be more aware of this programming and conditioning that occurred until my age of 7, and how this programming and conditioning within my mind was influencing how I experience life today. Like I said, we would see the same objective reality differently
Yeah.
based on how our mind is programmed. Now, my mind was programmed very differently than yours
Yeah.
was up until 7, based on our surroundings. So that's what I started to discover, and still to
At
this date, I'm doing that.
at what point do you think meditation stops being a practice and it starts becoming a way of life?
When you can, it's really hard to make it a way of life, because fundamentally we live in a material world. What I mean by that is we live in
Yeah.
a three-dimensional world, right? Everything that we see around us has borders, has outlines, has labels, right?
Yeah.
Um, when you close your eyes, that world dissipates. And meditation is a practice that is getting you to be familiar with what is not in the three dimensional,
Yeah.
what is not in um, it's got an element of faith. So when you close your eyes and it's making you aware of um, a reality that can't be perceived through three dimensions, it's very hard to take that into your day to day. But I think, to answer your question, when does it start becoming a lifestyle? When you can really start being mindful and do one thing at a time. That's literally what meditation is, mindfulness per se, doing one thing at a time. If I'm using my phone, I'm using
Yeah.
my phone. If I'm watching a movie, I'm watching a movie. I'm not working on my laptop, talking to my friend while I'm watching a movie as well. Um, so if you start being mindful and conscious of every step throughout the day, during your day, and you're aware of your breath, which is always in the present, means you start living in the present. That's when meditation starts becoming more like a lifestyle than a practice.
Now, I'm really interested in knowing if you were ever able to tap into any other dimension during
Yeah, look,
meditation or something that challenged your sense of reality.
it certainly did, and it's happened quite a few times. And honestly, that experience is what has paved the path for me to go deeper and be more curious. Had I not had that experience and meditation was just relaxing for me, like I wouldn't be as curious, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So I have had several experiences like that, on psychedelics and off psychedelics as well.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think you can reach deeper realms of consciousness uh, without drugs as well, although they can get you there. But there's also an element of how much of that journey is coming through your effort rather than relying on another substance. So
yeah,
I've reached there through both cases. I mean, meditation can get you there as well. What's that like? I cannot explain. It's beyond words and the three dimension. And that's, I'm sure you must have heard that as well. But it gives you a sense that you are more than this body.
yeah,
You are more than just a human in a certain country, in a certain surrounding, doing a certain job. And you're born, you go to school, you do your job, you have a family, and you die. Like, I refuse to believe that. And having those deeper experiences with my consciousness um, gave me more insight into, yeah, we're more than human, right? And then
yeah,
then that journey becomes of curiosity and answering more, asking more questions and finding more answers, so on and so forth. But yeah, we're definitely more than human. We are, I say, we're an expression of God. That is my belief. And I understand that might relate to some people, that might offend some people, but that's totally fine because that's my personal belief and I respect others' belief as well. But I fundamentally believe um, the same consciousness that you perceive God through is within you as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Agreed.
So you're just literally an expression of it.
Do you also feel that once you tap into these dimensions and you have that certain sense of experiencing a certain conscious level, you tend to lose your interest in the material world?
Yes. Um, because material world by definition is limited. It's
Yeah,
confined, it has boundaries. Spiritual is limitless, it's boundless. There's how much space is there in the universe? Unlimited. How much
yeah,
energy? Like, it's so. Uh, Once you experience that deeper realms of consciousness that have no boundary, have no label, have no limitations to
yeah.
define it, you start disassociating yourself from the three-dimensional world, which has a boundary, which has a label, which has limitations.
How did you manage to maintain that balance between the two?
I think at the end of the day, you have to maintain balance because although you are fundamentally consciousness, you
Yeah,
are consciousness trapped in a body living in a three-dimensional world. So you have to play by the laws of three dimensions. You
yeah,
have to um, you have to live in the day to day. You have to deal with material things. You have to do your job. You have to do certain things, take care of this body. All of this is in a three-dimensional world, so it has to be dealt with the laws of three dimension, which are laws of nature, laws of physics. But your consciousness is not in three-dimensional. Your
yeah,
consciousness is beyond any dimension. So um, although you have to play by that laws, fundamentally, if deep down you know that this is not the end of it, this is
yeah.
just the game that we're playing, being consciousness, um, I think that frees you and opens things up.
And do you think, Parmeet, that neuroscience and spirituality, they're trying to describe the same phenomena, but it's just that the language used is different?
The science, look, what science is proving today, spirituality proved thousands of years ago, right?
Yeah,
And now science is coming out and acknowledging and accepting all the things that
yeah,
um, these ancient traditions and cultures proved. It's
yeah,
just that at the time, they only had an experience. They did not have the instruments to um, do research that can prove a certain cause and effect that can be applied to masses. Right now, we have those instruments. Right now, we have the tools and the technology to be able to um, put those claims that spirituality made to test and see if there's any truth in that. And science is literally proving, neuroscience is proving that, yeah, it's exactly what was said in the Upanishads or the Vedas in thousands and thousands of years ago.
right. So what I've generally heard about meditation is that it's a way of self-contemplation. It's a practice which helps you, I wouldn't say kill, but minimize your ego. Do you think that ego plays a great role in someone's personal growth? And if it can be minimized or killed through meditation?
So meditation literally just means to become familiar with. That's the actual translation, right? What are we
Right.
becoming familiar with? We're becoming familiar with our conditioning and programming,
Yeah.
which was established until the age of 7, as we discussed. That conditioning and programming gives you a certain identity.
Yeah.
Identity is just another word for ego. So when you meditate, you are becoming more and more aware of this identity, this label, this box that you live in, and it frees you, right? Because once you become aware of it, um, it no longer holds power on you. Now, I would not say that being more aware of your identity and ego and dissipating it hinders your personal growth. I would say the opposite. I think it fuels it. It fuels it because now, because you're aware of your identity and ego, you're starting to, that box that you live in of what you like, what you dislike, what your beliefs are, what your doubts are, that's starting to dissipate because this box was never yours to begin with. It's something that you learned. It's learned behavior, and anything that's learned can be unlearned. And um, yeah, the more you unlearn it, the more you open yourself up to growth.
Great. Regardless of, I've seen a lot of people meditate and I've seen a lot of people attend these retreats, but then some of them, despite the fact that they have tried to transform, I've seen some people completely fail at it. And then there are some who have completely, changed the way their life has been early on. Why do you think some of them do not, some of them they stay stuck while the others they are able to bring about that transformation into their lives?
Well, that would depend on I obviously don't know these individuals, so I can't say for certain, but um, I genuinely believe that life gives you experiences that you need for you to become the person that you're supposed to become, to
Yeah.
live a life that you're supposed to live. So some people everyone has different journeys, right? And some people need to go through certain things to learn certain lessons that would make them who they are. um, I also do believe that it's not a quick pill, and it's also not one size fits all. um, it's a tool, and I would say there's numerous ways to meditate as well, right? I
Yeah.
would not take one practice and apply it on every single person on this planet. No, that won't work, right? You
Yeah.
might need someone else, I might need something else. It's like one thing will not fit everyone. So um, one should try different things, but also at the same time, like, they would have the experiences that they need to go through in order to become the person that they're supposed to become.
Yeah. Yeah. One very interesting question that I personally want to really have an answer for.
Yeah.
What is the relationship between suffering and awakening? Why are these two always, always connected?
No question. What's the relationship between suffering and awakening?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you were to ask me, from
Hmm.
my experience, I would say I personally believe that unless and until you have experienced a certain kind of suffering, you don't get to that certain level of enlightenment or
Yeah,
awakening.
awakening. Yeah. I feel like awakening comes as a result of suffering. And why I say that is, if everything's going well in your life, everything is perfect, everything's going to plan, you have no reason to change. You have no reason to be enlightened. If, as they say, um, you have no reason to change or to grow.
Yeah.
Something has to shake your foundation, or something has to happen in your life where you start questioning things. And suffering is that part where you go from being this to being this. It's where you change is where you suffer, right? While you're changing from one being one person to another. And in that change, you suffer, but at the same time you're awakened over different newer possibility of what you can be. Does that make sense? And it's not always like physical suffering, right? When people say suffering, they literally take it in the physical sense. No, it's more mental, I would say, right?
Yeah.
It's more letting go of the attachment that we have to our ego or to our beliefs or to our likes or dislikes. Let that attachment is what's causing us suffering. And then when we change that and start to detach ourselves from those things, um, we awaken ourselves to newer possibilities.
Great. Makes sense. Do you think human beings are ultimately searching for their purpose in life, or they're not really aware of what exactly is it that they're searching for?
That would depend on what stage in life humans are at. Purpose is like the last thing. Like, first thing you got to worry about is your basic needs. Like, I don't know if you've heard of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of motivation or
No, no.
hierarchy of needs and wants. So there's like five stages, and at the very bottom, you have human basic needs. And as you solve for one, you go to the next one and the next one and the next one. So if I were to run you through them quickly, the very at the very bottom is your basic needs: roti, kapda, makan, as they say, food, shelter, and clothes. After
Yeah.
that is security, like feeling safe. If you solve for these three and then you solve for security, then you have social needs. You need people around you. You need a good sense of community. You need a sense of belongingness. After you solve for that, then there is intellectualization. Actually, there's psychological needs, like um, being successful or attaining a certain level of success or being good at something or having a certain skill, doing a certain job, and then comes purpose. Like when you solve for these material things, and you have nothing to worry about in that sense. You have your clothes taken care of, your food and shelter, and you have the security, you have good income, you have a good social circle. Then you start to wonder, like, what next? Like there has to be something more, right? But that purpose or calling for purpose will not come to someone who is trying to solve for having shelter over their head. You know, it's more primal.
I was just saying that it could be that there's somebody who's probably also struggling with their financials or the basics, as you said, roti, kapra, makan, and at the same time, they're
Yeah.
also, trying to search for their purpose. So, how are these
Yeah.
all correlated?
Yeah, look, I would agree with you. It's definitely not linear. It's just one model that explains that hierarchy and progression. There's another model that I came across. It's called the triune brain model, and
Okay.
it just literally just shares. It was by Peter McLean, I think, in the 1960s. He developed it, and this shares why, as humans, we are looking for purpose intrinsically. It just appears to us after we've solved for our basic needs. So, triune brain model is how our brain actually developed. So, at the core, we have our mammalian brain, and this part of the brain requires shelter. It's actually very similar to reptiles. Um, they're aggressive, they need shelter, they need food, and they need to reproduce. And then eventually, Mother Nature thought, how do I increase chances of survival? Then came the first was the reptilian brain. Sorry, I think I said mammalian. Second came the mammalian brain. Reptilian, basic needs, shelter, security. Mammalian brain, you need a social order. You need social cohesion. You need sense of community. And that's because Mother Nature thought we have higher chances of survival being together than fighting individually. Because then what can happen is we can start living in a community while a part of the community is hunting, the other can cook, take care of kids, so on and so forth.
Okay.
And then last came the human brain. And human brains require, so reptilian brains require safety and security, mammalian brain requires community, and the human brain requires purpose. And that's because we are the only creatures or species that are aware of our own death. So, because we can think in the future and think in the past, and we know at some point we will die, we need to be able to justify all this suffering that we go through our journey. And that's why we need a purpose. We need to leave with a sense that we've done something, and this suffering is for a reason. It's not without a reason. Does that make sense?
It does. I actually find this also interesting.
Yeah. So hence, the
Um,
purpose is interestingly at our core. It's just that people are oblivious to it because obviously they're trying for more, like
yeah,
the the reptilian or the mammalian side.
yeah, yeah. So, with human beings, do you think each one of us, and I'm saying this, in terms of the majority, do you feel that every single human being is trying to create their own reality and live within that reality? Because nowadays it's more about survival, right? People are not very emotionally capable of surviving their day-to-day needs and their wants. Or do you think people have now become so conscious or so mindful of their surroundings that they do know, they do have that acceptance towards reality? You get what I'm saying?
I understand. So let me just clarify a question. You're saying um, uh, people are so the reality that they experience is very much a reflection of their internal state. So the
Yeah,
question is
yeah,
if they're aware of it or not.
yeah,
I would say
yeah.
most people are not aware of it, and it's an absolute fact. It's not just my belief; it's a fact that is the reality you are experiencing is a reflection of you, not what the reality actually is. right?
Yeah.
Like I went back to the same example. If you're about to say you're scared of heights, right? This is the simple example I give to everyone that is very easy to understand. Say you're scared of heights and I love heights, and we're both standing at a cliff.
Yeah.
Logically, you will feel fear because you're scared of heights. I will feel adrenaline because it's
Yeah.
exciting me.
Yeah.
We're both standing at the same place, viewing the same thing, but your internal state is very different from my internal state. You're
Yeah.
in fear, you're in doubt, you're scared, your body's reacting a certain way based on that emotion. My body is reacting completely differently. The reality is the exact same. What's changed is our perception of it. Our perception of reality is what gives meaning to reality, not the reality itself. So reality is always confining to your beliefs. Always, 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 right? And
Yeah.
I don't think most people are aware of it. If they would unlock a lot of power because they would then understand that things aren't happening to me. I'm the source of the things happening to me, and then you start to take responsibility because you know that if it's coming from you, you can change it. Otherwise, if somebody else caused you certain thing, you can't change them. Like, good luck changing them. It's easier to change yourself, I guess. So
Okay, so we'll do a very quick rapid fire.
cool.
How would you define love?
Love is the most fundamental emotion. When you remove every single belief, like, dislike that we have, that is what remains. That is what our fundamental emotion is. And you can see this in kids. They
Yeah.
just love everything, unless obviously they need food and they need to go to bed or they have something bothering them.
And then they're all
Like, they
cranky.
naturally just are loving, they're happy
Yeah.
beings. Yeah.
Yeah. One word to describe yourself now.
I would say limitless. In this phase of life, I would say limitless.
Amazing. How would you describe the practices that you've been experiencing since the last couple of years?
I would say life changing, not just for me, but people around me as well. And somebody else does them, it doesn't just change them, it changes people around them. That's the beauty of it.
What would you like to tell people who are currently emotionally struggling, who feel that they're emotionally unavailable, but they do have that awareness about them, but they're still struggling towards, making themselves better around this?
I would say no matter how hard or how dark it is, or no matter how dark the night is, the day is always bright. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, but you have to take responsibility and take action to walk that path to reach that light. Nothing changes until you change.
Great. Um, do you think I should start meditation? Not that I want to tap into more dimensions, but
Um, I think, look, the meditation has several benefits, and tapping into different dimensions is not for everyone, or that's not even something that we market or sell. To put it
yeah,
very simply, it's very relaxing. It helps you focus. Right now, we're constantly stimulated, going from one phone to laptop to one phone call to here. Our attention is constantly occupied. Our
yeah,
attention is what makes us human, and we need to bring it back home to ourselves. And meditation literally just allows you to do that. It helps you relax, improves your immunity, restores your focus, and it just brings you more peace. Do it for that. Everyone wants peace, I'm guessing.
great. One word for somebody who has been to therapy, who has tried meditation, and they still feel that they haven't healed.
Look, I would say healing, as you call it, it's a never-ending process, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure if you take a step back and look at yourself, um, you must have changed a lot. And there's so many things that you've done and learned from if you've done them with true intention. So give yourself some grace and kindness. Be kind to yourself. Um, it will come eventually. Like, we're all meant to walk different paths. So if you just acknowledge that and don't resist that, it won't be so heavy on you. That's just
one
general advice.
One parting word for your audience, Parmeet.
Thank you for sticking by. People who genuinely know me know what my intentions are genuinely. And I just cannot wait to be on this journey for the rest of my life. And whoever's with me walks along and, yeah, sees all the beautiful things that um, we witness.
Thank you so much for your time, Parmeet. I am absolutely thrilled and I'm absolutely excited to seeing you here in Karachi someday.
Absolutely. End of the year. Thank you so much, Elise. I really appreciate your time and energy. And thank you for having me on. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.